The last couple of years has seen a lot of big game companies claim that single-player linear storytelling games are dead. Is that the case? Well, let's talk about this. Hey everybody, what's going on? Brandon here, and today we're going to talk about single-player games. Now, I want to go ahead and say this before I get started with this video. Don't watch this video and take it as I don't like single-player games, and I'm just making this to hate on single-player games. That's got nothing to do with it. I grew up on single-player games. I grew up with the NES and Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis. I mean, I grew up before multiplayer was actually really even a thing, and I love single-player games. This has nothing to do with my personal preference on a game type. It all has to do with the market and how the market is shaping what kind of games are coming out and why you've seen fewer and fewer multiplayer games. So, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get started, so please don't start hating on me at the end of the video, claiming that I just hate single-player games, and what I say is nonsense. It's just, this has to do with the gaming market as a whole and how it's being shaped, and I'll explain everything, so just hope you guys enjoyed the video, and let's get started. Now, to start things off, back in, I think it was November of last year, we had EA come out when they let go of Visceral Studios that was working on a single-player Star Wars game. And the reason behind that was that they said that the time of linear, single-player, story-driven games is coming to an end, and people don't want them anymore. And now, we've had a lot of people come up in arms ever since this was said. And, great examples like God of War, The Witcher 3, Fallout. We have some great single-player games, and people have been clamoring, saying, no, we like the single-player games. Why are you saying, people don't like single-player games? Well, I'm sure EA is not stupid. I'm sure they don't actually believe people don't play single-player games. But when it comes down to it, it's not cost efficient, and here's why single-player games are kind of dying out. Now, the reason EA is saying this stuff, and other big game developers are steering away from single-player games, it all has to do with profits. The developers and the publishers don't make more money if you buy a game, you beat it, then you give it to a friend, or you trade it in at GameStop for another game, or you sell it on eBay, or you sell it on Amazon. The developers and publishers are not getting that profit. And with single-player games, usually that's what happens. The average consumer will buy a single-player game, play it, beat it, and then turn around and trade it back in at GameStop, or sell it on eBay, sell it on Amazon, give it to a friend, let a friend borrow it so they can beat it, so their friend doesn't have to go out and buy it or rent it. And that's what happens. Now, with multiplayer games, you don't have to worry about that as much because there's so much more replay value. Now, I know a lot of people will sit there and they will replay single-player games, or they'll try to do speed runs, they'll try to 100% it, but the average consumer plays it, beats it, sells it, gets rid of it. And none of that, whenever they sell it, goes back to the developers or publishers. In 2016, GameStop made $187.3 million off selling new games and software, but they made $218 in used. So that means that GameStop is making more money selling used games than they are selling new ones. So the developers and publishers are getting none of that. They're getting none of that money back when somebody buys a game, then they sell it to GameStop, then GameStop sells it to somebody else because the game's already been bought once. The publishers have already got their one time for that particular copy of the game. And games can change hands multiple times. And with single-player games, that happens a lot. It doesn't happen as much with multiplayer because there's so much more replay value there because there's no end in sight. There's no, okay, when I do this, I've done it all, and I've beat the game, and I'm done. That's not how it works. Usually, because they're multiplayer, there is no end game. You can just keep playing and keep playing and keep playing. So while games like God of War might do really awesome and make a lot of money, it's just not cost effective because the game more than likely will change hands and make more money secondhand than it actually made buying brand new, which means less money going back to the developers and publishers, more money just going into other people's pockets. So, and it costs, you gotta think, it costs a lot more to make a single player game now than it used to. You've got motion capture, you've got voice actors, you've got storyboarding. I mean, you've got a lot of work that go into these single player games. And it costs a lot more to make them now than it used to, sometimes more than movies cost to make. And for a studio to make something and then have it make more money secondhand than it does firsthand, game companies, they want to steer away from that. They don't like the idea of losing any kind of money. That's why they've been steering more towards multiplayer, just because there's less likely of a chance that it will go through other people's hands because there's so much more replay value. It's more cost effective, and they don't have to worry about voice acting usually. They don't have to worry about motion capture. A lot of times they're just easier to do and they're easier to make. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. If I had to guess, within the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to be doing away with physical copies of games altogether. With 4K TVs, a new Xbox, and a new PlayStation coming out in 2020, and physical mediums just not able to hold as much data as we really would like them to be able to anymore, I see them doing away with physical games in the near future. And once that happens, that's when single-player games will make a big comeback. Because there's not going to be anybody buying a game then loaning it to a friend, or buying a game and selling it to GameStop or eBay or Amazon. You're going to buy the game and you're going to own it. So that's when single player games are going to make a big comeback, because secondhand selling is not going to be a thing anymore. Of course, that means GameStops more than likely will also be a thing of the past, but you know, it's bound to happen at this rate. It's a sad thing, but it is more than likely going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years. Like I said, with Sony and Microsoft announcing new consoles coming out in 2020, I see those consoles not even having physical disc drives. To me, it doesn't make sense, because we're getting to the point now that the disc is nothing more than a DRM key anyway, and you end up having to download the entirety of the game anyway. So I see them doing away with physical, and once that happens, I see single-player games making a huge, huge comeback. But guys, that's all the time I got for this video. I'm trying to make my videos a little bit shorter and more onto the point. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you like this video and you want to see more, please click that red subscribe button. If you want to make sure you get notifications anytime we do a video, please click that bell icon. YouTube's been pretty weird giving notifications out to our subs, so if you want to make sure you know anytime we upload, please click that bell icon. But that's all the time I got for this. Leave a comment down below. What are your guys' thoughts on single-player games? Do you guys think that they're going to be coming back? Do you think they'll make a resurgence, or do you not agree with anything that I said in the video? I don't know. I want to know. Let me know in the comments down below, and I will see you guys next time.